books. I want to salute John Bush, of the Bush brothers, Marvin, Jeb, George W. He is my favorite. You have my friend Judith Ari Baker coming up. This is a terrific book. She is a truth teller. She takes a beating on the internet because of her courage in speaking out, but I commend her book and her appearance to you. And I'm delighted here to talk to you about our latest project, the Clintons' War on Women. Yesterday I had the opportunity to speak to the National Federation, to the Texas Federation of Republican Women in Lubbock. It was a great meeting. I'm going to take this off, kind of like James Brown getting rid of the cape. These, women now left there. We did very well. We sold a couple hundred books, but a lot of these women went out armed. They now have the essential information that is necessary to convince this country not to make an egregious error by electing Hillary Clinton. As you might imagine, Bill and Hillary Clinton are not who they appear to be. Bill is not, some roguish old uncle who just has an eye for the ladies. Hillary's not a kindly grandmother who's an advocate for women and girls. They are career criminals in a dysfunctional marriage that is really an unending quest for money and power. And really, the centerpiece of our book is two. One, it is a depiction of all of the people, women, men, and children, that they have abused in their scramble for power. And also, it is a story of hypocrisy, the enormous hypocrisy of Hillary Clinton particularly. I spent 40 years in the corroded rectum of the two-party system. I work now, counting Donald Trump, who I left in August. I have worked in 9 presidential campaigns. I worked as an assistant to Senator Bob Dole. I worked in the House side as an assistant to Congressman Robert Steele. I was a heavy-duty lobbyist in Washington in the 1980s. I have seen the sausage being made. It is not pretty. Everything is for sale. Everything is for sale. I have great sentimental attachment to the Republican Party, but that's the Republican Party of Barry Goldwater. That was the party that stood for individual freedom, for keeping government out of the bedroom, out of the boardroom, out of your business. And I sadly say I don't think that Republican Party exists anymore. Both parties have morphed into one party. It's the party of endless war. It's the party of erosion of our civil liberties, of spying, reading our emails, tracking our phone calls. It's the party of massive debt and borrowing. It's the party that puts higher and more oppressive taxes on working people while hedge fund managers on Wall Street pay almost nothing. It is the party of massive spending. It is the party run by the special interests, for the special interests, at the behest of the special interests. It is what interests me about Donald Trump's candidacy. Believe me, folks, the political establishment is pissing their pants about the fact that he is completely uncontrollable. God knows what he might say. Weeks ago, he raised the question of whether the Bushes had kept us safe from Islamic terrorism, and there was a cataclysmic response to that in the political class. This will be the end of him. He'll crash and burn. Of course, none of those things happened, but it did cause a re-examine of the basic facts around the run-up to 9/11. And I like it because it also, once again, put the spotlight on the 28 pages of the 9/11 Commission report that are still classified because evidently they believe the American people can't handle the truth. I know what's in there. I've talked to members of the House and the Senate who've seen them. The attack on America was funded by the Saudi royal family. That's what's in there. And there's no question that members of the bin Laden family, as many as 27 of them, were flown out of the country when all Americans were not allowed to fly, when everything was grounded. None of them were questioned, and at least 2 of them had suspected ties to known terrorist groups. So I think it has been healthy. I think his candidacy, if he's achieved nothing else, he's taking care of Jeb Bush. There's a public service right there. If he achieves nothing else, he's achieved that. Hillary Clinton is not an advocate for women and girls. Bill Clinton is a Bill Cosby-type sexual predator. Robert Morrow and I identified at least 27 women who he has sexually assaulted. Now let me stress, our book is not about consensual sex. It's not about girlfriends, mistresses, one-night stands. If we wrote such a book, it would be an encyclopedia. You wouldn't be able to carry it. I, as a libertarian, I kind of think consenting conduct among adults in private is their business. I thought it was foolish to impeach Bill Clinton for the Monica Lewinsky affair. He should have been impeached for selling military secrets to the Chinese through the Loral Corporation. He is a serial predator. He has either raped or sexually assaulted or exposed himself to numerous women. You know some of these names: Juanita Broderick, Kathy Willey, a very brave woman who wrote the introduction for our book, Paula Jones, but there's so many names you don't know: Christy Zurcher, Carolyn Moffett, Becky Brown, Eileen Wellstone, Liz Ward Grayson, Dorothy Kyle Browning. This list goes on and on and on. Some of you may know that Bill is not just a predator, but he's particularly savage. At least 3 women we identified all experienced his signature move, biting the upper lip of his victims, which is both a disabling move for rapists, but also a not so subtle message to keep your mouth shut. And for those who say, well, what does this have to do with Hillary? Don't kid yourself. Hillary's running the cover-up. Hillary is the one who first denigrates and tries to destroy the credibility of these women. Sluts, bitches, whores, trash. You can see Hillary's minions, James Carville and that twisted little freak David Brock out there saying that. Hillary runs the so-called Nuts and Sluts campaign out of the East Wing, her East Wing office. She's the one who has to take the fifth or say, I don't recall and I don't remember, at least 56 times in the investigation by Ken Starr, and frankly, he was in the tank. So it is Hillary who hires the heavy-handed private detectives. First in Arkansas, Ivan Duda, to keep track of the women who could be problematic because Bill has assaulted them. And then later, Jack Palladino, Anthony Pellicano, who's in jail, or as like Morrow likes to say, Jack Palladino, who should be in jail, and Anthony Pellicano, who is in jail. These are the men who run a veritable terror campaign to silence Bill's victims. Our book, however, is not just about sex. It's about the entire arc of the criminal crimes, of the Clinton crimes. But let's stay on women for a while. Hillary is a huge proponent of income equality. The problem with that is that in no place where she was the boss have women ever been paid as much or more as men. Not in the U.S. Senate, where she has that discretion, not at the State Department, where she probably doesn't have full discretion but some ability, and certainly not at the Clinton Foundation. You can't just talk the talk, you've got to walk the walk. Hillary's an advocate for children. I mean, I looked at Chelsea's children's book the other day. The 18 children under 8 who died in Waco are not mentioned in that book. But as we establish in our book, both T. March Bell, the chief investigator for the House Committee looking into Waco, and Senator Arlen Specter, who ran the Senate hearings into Waco, both concluded that it was Hillary, the co-president of the United States, who gave the final order through her former lover, Webster Hubbell, to her hand-picked Attorney General, Janet Reno. For those who doubt her role, it's very clear. She vetted the cabinet. She chose Reno. She chose 2 other prospective attorney generals before Reno, both of whom were rejected. She is the one who fired the Travelgate staff, humiliating them, accusing them of illegality. They were led from the office in handcuffs. They were put into a paddy wagon. They were all cleared. None of them did anything wrong, but Hillary wanted to deliver the White House travel office business to her cronies in Arkansas who owned a travel agency. It's Hillary, of course, who concocted the first take on Obamacare, the Clinton health care proposal. She is, without any question, as they said in the campaign, you get 2 for 1. She is a co-president of the United States. She bears responsibility for the death of 18 children under the age of 8. What about the 200 girls sold into slavery by Boko Haram, who she wouldn't put on the terror list? What about those children? Now, you have read and heard a lot about the Clinton Foundation, and you're going to hear a lot more shortly because the various required filings of the Clinton Foundation with the Internal Revenue Service and with the 50 state governments where they raise money are permeated with fraud, and they require amendment and restatement. And the truth is, there's no way to restate these filings without admitting the prior fraud. So let's be very clear. The Clinton Foundation is not a charity. It's a slush fund for grifters. It's a luxury travel service for Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton. Chelsea is not a girl. She's not a child. She's a 33-year-old adult. She is legally responsible for anything that happens at the Clinton Foundation because she's still on the papers. Bill has been removed. He actually has no legal authority at the Clinton Foundation anymore. And she runs the day-to-day operation. The most important thing to understand is the Clinton Foundation is a vehicle for the facilitation of bribes. That's its greatest single function. Let's give you the best example. The government of Qatar wants to topple Muammar Gaddafi, which is contrary to U.S. policy because Gaddafi, who is, believe me, no sweetheart, is sharing all of his intelligence on Al-Qaeda. He decided to get with the West several years ago. His children were educated in this country, and he's seen the big picture and decides he is siding with the West. So the Qatar government pays Bill Clinton $1.5 million for a 20-minute speech, bribe. They pay Hillary $1 million for a speech, bribe. They pay $2.5 million to the Clinton Foundation. At the same time, they are bribing Tony Blair in the UK, and they're bribing Sarkozy, and lo and behold, we decide that we're going to go to the national credit card to borrow the money to pay for the bombers to topple Gaddafi. Some of you may know that the quality of life and the treatment of women particularly was better in Libya than any other country in the African continent. Hillary has put women back 200 years in Libya. The Clintons are not progressives. They are not liberals. They are crony capitalists. And their partners in this endeavor are the Bushes. You might call this the Clinton-Bush crime syndicate because they profiteer together, they rehabilitate each other, they vouch for each other. This is why Barbara Bush, on those rare occasions when she's sober, says that Bubba is like the fifth Bush brother. It's why George W. Bush says that Hillary is like his sister-in-law. How could Jeb run against Hillary? Gave her a medal for public service. Jeb's job in this year's election is absolutely clear. Designated loser. So they can get back to making money together. They raised $138 million for Haitian earthquake relief. They spent $10 million in Haiti. They pocketed $128 million. They closed the nonprofit. They don't say where the money went, and they'll answer no questions. That's just one example. So for those who say that oh, okay, Stone, you're just a partisan hitman, you're just a right winger, you just hate the Clintons because you're a crusty old Republican. First of all, I'm not a Republican anymore. I'm a registered member of the Florida Libertarian Party. I don't rule out that, like Teddy Roosevelt, like Ron Paul, I might someday return to the Republican Party if there's a fight there worth having, if I ever believe that the Liberty wing had some prospect of overthrowing the Wall Street wing, I could return. And frankly, if you've spent any time in the Libertarian Party, you might understand why. But it is important to note that in January, St. John Hunt, who is a very good friend of mine, an accomplished writer, artist, musician, poet, singer, and the son of the legendary CIA operative and Watergate burglar E. Howard Hunt, and I have co-authored a book which you can already find on Amazon for pre-order, entitled Jeb and the Bush Crime Family. And it is interesting because our book, the Clintons' War on Women, exposes their relationship with the Bushes, and as you will see, we take that narrative further. In our book on the Bushes, we expose their relationship with the Clintons, because it's almost hard to keep up with all the new things that we are learning about the epic profiteering, fraud, and theft by both of these families. There's some startling things in our book that people need to know about. I must tell you, I think Black lives matter. Unless, of course, you're Danny Williams, the mixed-race son of Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton is the father of Danny Williams. Danny's mother is Bobby Ann Williams, who unfortunately was a cocaine-addicted prostitute who Bill spent a substantial amount of time with. There is no question whatsoever that Danny is Bill's son. He looks exactly like him. Danny Williams' mother, Bobby Ann Williams, was able to describe in intimate detail the interior of Bill Clinton's mother's home, where they had trysted on numerous occasions. When this got out in the media, finally the Clintonistas believed they had to deal with it. So in 1999, the Star tabloid published a story that said that a DNA test had disproved that Danny Williams was Bill's son. Well, what they didn't tell you is that the Star was owned at that time by Robert Altman, who was a Georgetown classmate of Bill's, a 30-year friend of Bill's, a major donor to Bill's campaigns, a major donor to the Democratic National Committee, a major donor to Hillary Clinton, a major donor to the Clinton Foundation. Howard Kurtz, who's not a bad fellow, with the Washington Post, picked it up from the Star and wrote it in the Post as a fact. Then Time Magazine picked it up from the Washington Post and they wrote it as a fact. Now, I've contacted the current management, who I happen to know, American Media, who owns the Star, and they've opened their files to me. Folks, there is no DNA test. There never was a DNA test. And it was George Stephanopoulos who sold that load of bullshit to Howard Kurtz. So it is important to note, again, that when Danny Williams and his mother and his guardian, Robert, help me here, whose name was?
Lucille Bolton, who's the aunt of Danny Williams. She helped raise him because Bobby Ann had a drug problem. And time out real quick. Bill Clinton was a drug addict as the governor.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. We'll get there. So it's not just a street hooker who has a drug problem.
Right.
The governor was a cokehead, okay?
So when his guardian and his mother took him to the governor's mansion and attempted to see Hillary, they were turned away. And then the next day, as Danny has told me, an Arkansas state trooper in uniform came to their home and told them if they ever went anywhere near the governor's mansion or the Clintons again, they would be thrown in jail. Now, Hillary tells us it takes a village to raise a child. Danny Williams has never been acknowledged, loved, nurtured, or supported. Black Lives Matter. Hillary Clinton is responsible here. Bill Clinton is a deadbeat dad. It's even worse than that. He's a deadbeat grandfather because Danny has 5 children of his own. He's a churchgoer. He has a small business. He put himself through school. This is an earnest young man. This isn't some hoodlum, some gangbanger. And all he wants is the acknowledgement of his biological father. As he puts it, I just want to shake his hand before he dies. And the Clintons will not step up and do the right thing. Anyone who thinks this won't be an issue in the 2016 campaign is wrong. The other thing that Robert points on is that we make this case that Bill Clinton is not only involved in the epic trafficking of cocaine through Mena, Arkansas. Robert gave you the short version of this. After the Bolin Amendment cuts off funding for the Iran-Contra, the Nicaraguan rebels, the government decides that a special task force under the control and the chairmanship of George H.W. Bush, the vice president, is going to import millions of dollars worth of the cocaine into the United States, where it will be sold on the streets of America to raise money for the Contras. And initially, these drugs were brought into Texas, Louisiana, but they had problems there because the governors in those states and the state police in those states, the Texas Rangers and the Louisiana Department of Law Enforcement, would not go along. They knew illegal activity when they saw it. They would not go along with the massive trafficking of drugs. So they moved to a place where they had a friendly governor. That was Arkansas. Millions and millions of dollars flowed through Mena, Arkansas. Some of you may remember the story of the boys on the tracks, two preteen boys who either saw or interdicted a drug drop and were both murdered. And Bill Clinton's coroner said they had smoked so much marijuana that they laid down in the train track and they were killed by the train. He didn't notice the bullet in the back of one of their heads. So Bill Clinton was not only tied very deeply to drug trafficking, but one of his biggest supporters, financial supporters, Dan Lasater, who was ultimately prosecuted for his involvement with drugs, went out and hired a very smart woman lawyer by the name of Hillary Clinton and her partner Vince Foster, and lo and behold, he got a full pardon from his pal Governor Clinton. This is the epic criminality of the Clintons. Bill was a habitual cocaine user himself, an abuser of drugs. Multiple witnesses say this in our book. One party girl said, "I thought it was cool that we had a governor who got high." Unfortunately, she knew too much. They gave her a 30-year sentence for possession. 30 years to shut her up. This is once again documented in the book. And then there is the question, which the tabloids have seized on, which is somewhat sensational, but I think important to understand this narrative. Chelsea Clinton is not the biological daughter of Bill Clinton. Why is this important? For a couple reasons. One, don't feel sorry for Chelsea. She's not a child. She says she doesn't care about money. She lives in a $10.5 million condominium in Manhattan. She had a $3.5 million wedding. The liquor bill for her wedding was $3,000, more than most Americans spend on their entire wedding. She is, according to the New York Post, exactly like her mother. Foul-mouthed, greedy, abusive, short-tempered. They have trouble keeping help at the Clinton Foundation because people who actually have some background in charitable activities suggest that maybe our ratio should change and we should spend more actually on good works. Those people are summarily fired by Chelsea. So don't feel sorry for her thinking that she's a girl. She's not. But the truth is that she was born only weeks before the 1982 election. This is an election which Bill...
She was born February 1980, but go ahead.
Right, pardon me. That's very helpful.
I got to correct that quickly.
Okay, that's not my understanding. She was born before the election. There is no announcement on her birth. There is a news blackout on her birth. You're going to tell me the greatest political animal of all time would not try to score a few votes out of her birth? L.D. Brown says, the Clinton's bodyguard, says that that Bill learned that Hillary was pregnant by reading it in the newspaper. Now, I invite you to look in the book. There's numerous pictures of Chelsea throughout her childhood. She has had at least 4 plastic surgeries. I took her photographs when she was 24, probably when she was 18, 24, 28, and 31 to one of the most eminent plastic surgeons in Hollywood. They put them in the computer. She's had very extensive reconstructive surgery on her face. She still looks like her biological father. Some of you may know that Robert Morrow went to her book signing recently in Austin and asked her point blank whether her mother had told her that she was the daughter of Webster Hubbell, who of course was Hillary's law partner at the Rose firm, later the Deputy Attorney General, the de facto Attorney General of the United States, because the first Deputy Assistant Attorney General runs the place. She didn't miss a beat. She looked up and said, I'm proud to be the daughter of my parents. When I worked for Dick Nixon, we called that the non-denial denial. And when a reporter reached Webster Hubbell only 2 days later in his office in Arkansas and said that, and asked him point blank whether he was the father of Chelsea Clinton, he said, and I'm going to get this exactly right, no comment, and he hung up. Now, why wouldn't you deny, I've been in politics for a long time, why wouldn't you deny that as a damnable lie? Why wouldn't you say, that's a lie, that's not true, that's outrageous? Why would you finesse that question? Unless, of course, they think that someone has DNA samples for both of them. Stay tuned. Anyway, I think you get the gist of the book. It is doing very well, as some of you may have read. Literally hours after it was released, 3 Tuesdays ago now, I guess, There were a large number of one-star reviews appeared on Amazon. They were all like one-sentence reviews. This book is a piece of crap. Morrow is a lunatic. Stone's even worse. This entire book has been disproved. Everything in this book has been discredited. This is the Clinton standard. That's old news. So let me tell you something. Nothing is old news if people never heard it before. To them, it is new news, and therefore it's relevant. So that's old news is not going to work. And thank God for Citizens United. I'm sorry for those who disagree, but without Citizens United, only the Clintons and the Bushes would have money for political communications. I will raise the money to put many of the women who've been victimized by Bill and take Danny Williams and put them on television. Let them tell their own story and let the American people decide. The truth is that half of the voters in this election have no memory of the Clinton presidency. They weren't old enough to remember them stealing the furniture and the china and the silver when they left and having to return $200,000 worth of items that they had stolen. They don't remember Bill selling pardons to Mark Rich, the notorious fraudster and criminal, through massive contributions to the Clinton Foundation. They don't remember Monica Lewinsky, the fact that the President of the United States used a 22-year-old intern as his personal humidor. They don't remember the semen-stained dress. They don't remember Hillary stonewalling a special prosecutor. They don't remember Whitewater. Whitewater is very complicated. Let me sum it up for you in a sentence. Everybody involved in Whitewater lost money, except for the Whitewater Partnership produced $850,000 for Bill's comeback political campaign as governor. It was a fraud. But most people don't remember Whitewater. So if I were the Clintons, I would have ridden off into the sunset with my money and my acclaim, realizing that I've dodged many, many bullets, and with Bill having a serious sex addiction. Indeed, the first time he met President Gerald Ford, Ford told him, you know what? You're sick, buddy. You need help. You got to get to a psychiatrist. You got a sex addiction. If I were the Clintons, I would have ridden off into the sunset. They have chosen to re-engage. And therefore, in my view, everything is on the table. Everything they have done is on the table. And it is up to us to show people what they really are. Let me sum this up. Bill and Hillary Clinton are the penicillin-resistant syphilis of the American body politic. Thank you very much.